Hello everyone, welcome. This is a new lecture in your course, Linux for Absolute Beginners by Avionics. My name is Ahmed, and in this section, we are discussing how to deal with files on Linux. In the previous lecture, we have stopped at the FHS standard and how it aimed at standardizing the way files are placed in a typical Linux installation. We said that it classifies files into shareable and non-shareable, and also into variable and non-variable files. These are interchangeable classifications. A file can have one or more classification according to the FHS. So in a typical Linux installation, and according to the FHS standards, the following directories are created in order to hold different types of files. Let's have them one by one. The first one is the root directory, or the starting point of the tree. We have talked before about the file system and how it can be represented like a tree, with the root of the tree as slash, which is also called root, and then comes beneath it all the directories and subdirectories and subdirectories of the file system until all the files and directories are listed. So root here, if we ls slash, you'll see that it contains directories. These are the first level of subdirectories of the root directory, and they may act as mount points for other file systems, like for example a CD-ROM or a USB disk. Now next we have the /etc, and /etc contains system configuration files, like for example the network configuration that contains the IP address of the machine, the gateway, the DNS, whether or not it gains an IP automatically through a DHCP, for example, and so on. This file is placed in a directory under /etc. Also the password file that contains the information about users. Let's have a look at it. This is the password file that we have talked about in this section. These are the users that are available on the system, some of which are of course normal users, and most others are just system accounts. System accounts are just accounts created by the operating system for daemons or services to use in order to work properly and be able to deal with other files and directories in the system. These are the users, and as we said, any change to this file may affect all the other users of the system, and it may affect the system as a whole. So we said before that this is a system file and it is placed under /etc. Next we have /boot, and /boot is a directory that holds the kernel files. It holds something called the RAM disk, and it also holds the bootloader. All these files are used to make the system actually boot. They are used to make the system identify the disk from which it is going to boot and starts actually booting the operating system. Then we have /bin, and /bin, from its name, bin is short for binary, and yes, it contains binary files for programs that are used by normal users on the system, by regular users, like for example the command ls. We've been using ls since the start of this course, and we have talked about it before. It is the command that is used to list directories, to list the contents of a directory, or to list the properties of a file according to the options that have been passed on to it. So ls is present physically in this directory /bin. Let's have a look. Here it is, ls. It is present. This is the binary of ls, and it's present in /bin. And as we said before, because /bin is present in my path, it is present by default in any user path on the system. Typing ls in any location will execute the binary file that is located under /bin, even if you did not pass in the full path to the command. So ls will get called whenever you type it, regardless of your kernel location, because the directory which contains it, which is /bin, is present in the path. Next we have /sbin, and /sbin is similar to bin in that it contains binaries for different programs, but they are not used by regular users on the system. They tend to be only used by root, or by somebody who has the root privileges. An example of this, for example, might be the fdisk command. As you can see here, here it is. The fdisk command, we have talked about this before, and we said that this command is used to format and prepare the disk for use. It is present in /sbin because normally the regular user should not be able to identify new disks and install file systems on it. Only the administrator of the system should be able to do this. We also have the parted utility. We've talked about it before. It acts in a similar way like fdisk, but it has more options. Here it is, parted. Then we have slash lib, and slash lib from its name is short for libraries. And a library is just a piece of code that has been written by some developer, for example, and it is aimed to be shareable among other programs and among the operating system itself. So for example, let's consider this. I am a developer and I have created code that knows how to read text from a Word document or from a text file. This task might be trivial, but there should be some code that defines and instructs the computer how to read a string from a disk. So once a developer has created this code, other developers should be able to use it if he or she allows them to. If he or she shares his code, a library is created and handed on to any user who wants to use this functionality, and other functionalities may be built upon them. So for example, I have been able to read the text from the document using the library that was used for this. Maybe I can develop furthermore over this library and create some functionality that will format the text that I have just read and maybe further save it to the disk and so on. So instead of reinventing the wheel, instead of rewriting the code that is used to read files from the disk, I can use the code that has been tested and released by some other developer, and I can put it in a library location, which is a common location for those types of files called libraries, where any program of the system can use it, including the operating system itself. Now we also have one important directory, which is /usr, and /usr contains directories that contains binaries of programs that got installed after the operating system has been installed. And inside the /usr, we have a slightly similar classification to the directories like the ones that are located on the root directory. So for example, I have here bin, I have lib, and I have sbin, and they serve the same functionality as their counterparts on the directory root. So for example, /bin here will not be /bin, but it will be /usr or /user/bin. And inside it, we're also gonna see binaries for programs that can be used by ordinary users. On the other hand, sbin, as we said, will contain other commands that are designed only to be used by root or somebody with the root powers. Then comes home, and home, as we have discussed before, is the directory that contains the home directories of other users on the system. Now, placing this directory on a separate file system is a good idea, and actually it is a recommended practice, because then the user's files are in complete isolation than the system files. Now you can safely, for example, do a reinstall to the whole Linux machine and keep the home directory intact, so that once the operating system is installed, the users can continue working with their files as if nothing happened. So /home holds the user directories of users that are registered on the system. And because the root user is theoretically an ordinary user and it should have its own home directory, because as we said, the root user is the most important user in the whole Linux system. He is the system administrator and he can do severe damage to the system, including complete system breakdown. So for that reason, the home directory for root is not placed under /home. However, it is placed separately on the root directory in a directory called /root. And this directory will contain just the user files of the user that is called root. But if you don't log in directly with root, or you don't use the account extensively on a system, then /root may not be of that much importance. Next we have /var, and /var from its name is the place for variable files. Variable files include log files, for example. It contains files that get changed quickly, either by the system or by the users. So those sorts of files are placed in /var. Now let's have a look at /temp. And /temp from its name, or /tmp, holds files that are intended to be stored only for a temporary period of time and not permanent. So in theory, this directory must get deleted the moment the system reboots. But actually, most Linux systems do not do that. They leave the temp directory as it is, and the system administrator must periodically check on the size of the /temp and empties it when it becomes in critical percentage. Now, if you have another look at /var, you will find that /var in itself has a directory that is called temp. Let's have a look at /var again. And inside it, I can see /temp. It is another temporary directory that is placed under var. And the theoretical difference between /temp and /var/temp is that in /temp, the system can remove files in that directory when it reboots, while in /var/temp the system should not do this. Okay, it should not delete directories under that directory. It should not delete files or directories under this path. Okay, so that's the theoretical difference. However, as we said, all modern computers do not delete the contents of the /temp directory even after a total reboot. And now we have /mnt or /mount, and /mount is used to mount other file systems on the machine. So let's say, for example, here we have CD-ROM. We have already mounted a file system. Okay, no, it has just created the directory for the file system, but it did not put in the CD or DVD. But you get the concept. This is just a directory where you can mount a remote file system. And actually, you can use any directory on the system as a mount point for other file systems. But the convention says that /mount or /mnt is the default directory on which you can mount several file systems as child nodes or as child directories of /mnt. And then finally we have /dev, and /dev is the directory that contains the device files of the system. As we said in the start of this section, everything in Linux is a file, including the hardware, like for example the hard disks and the network devices. They are defined here in /dev as just files. Maybe they are not regular files. You cannot open them in a VI editor, for example, and edit them. They are special type of files. However, they are still called files with the same permission, and just like everything, the only difference is that they are a different type of file. So if I lssda2, now this disk refers to the first disk on the system, the second partition, and as you can see here, it is a file located under /dev. So as you can see here, this is the most common classification of directories and files on a typical Linux installation. Actually, you will never find a Linux installation that does not contain those directories in it, and they place the files according to the function of each directory. So it is very uncommon to see, for example, a number of libraries that the user wanted to install, and he is creating a whole new directory for those libraries. While it is possible and it can be done, but it's much better to stick to the rules and stick to the convention. And when you have a library that you want to install or you want to place in the system, you should put it in /lib. So this is just a convention, and it will help you identify different directories on a new Linux installation. And as you saw here, it contains all types of files according to the FHS classification: shareable and non-shareable, variable and non-variable. Now in the coming lecture, we are going to see how we can work with files on a Linux system, starting with listing them. So see you next.